Noob School.
All right, welcome back to the Noob School. Today I've got a relatively new friend. Only maybe, 5 years?
Yeah,
That's
not long.
so it's a new friend in my world, 5 years. But Chris White, I met at the gym. We were getting ourselves in this kind of shape.
It's clearly a CrossFit gym.
That was a
High
while.
intensity.
It was a competition.
It was.
But Chris approached me. We hadn't really met yet. He approached me afterwards one day and said, I see you went to the Citadel. I think I was wearing my Citadel gear. And he says, you wouldn't know anyone who might know this Pat Conroy guy who played basketball at the Citadel and wrote all these books.
Yep.
And I said, well, I do, but why would you want to know? And he said, well, I'm thinking about doing a movie about Pat Conroy. And I said, wow, okay. So I hooked him up with Pat's former roommate on the basketball team, T. And that was really how we started our friendship.
That's right.
Chris is has become a filmmaker. He helps other people make and distribute films also. And his latest film is Electric Jesus, which...
It's streaming everywhere.
Streaming.
But that is a physical copy. That's a Blu-ray copy that you can also order. I like to have the physical copy myself.
Oh, yeah. So. And Brian Baumgartner, he was the Office.
He plays Kevin in The Office.
Kevin, okay.
And then Judd Nelson from The Breakfast Club's also in the movie.
Okay.
And then a bunch of young people that play the kids. It's a rock band movie.
Yeah, that's great.
Set in the 80s.
And most people don't know that Kevin, well, I guess if you watch the show, I mean, he plays guitar, right?
He's a drummer.
Okay. So
And a golfer.
And a golfer. Is he a good golfer?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He plays all the pro-ams.
And does he live like in California or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
But he grew up in Atlanta, has family on the East Coast. So. Yeah.
Well, how cool. We want to hear the story because, we're all about sales here on the Noob School. And to hear the story of how you can, go from where you started to where you are now required a lot of salesmanship.
Sure.
And it requires a lot of guts. And, of course, you have to have a lot of creative talent as well. So we'll start back, you grew up in Columbia, South Carolina.
That's right. Yeah. I was, I grew up going to my church youth group, which is a lot of what Electric Jesus is about.
Yeah.
Public high school kid, went to Irmo High School.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad was in sales. And my mom was in radio. She was like a station manager, but also on-air kind of person. And so there was a little bit of showbiz and a little bit of sales in my family, certainly. And I must have, picked it up.
So what did your dad sell?
At the time, he was a pharmaceutical rep, but then he started his own company. Home medical equipment, which grew and grew and grew, and then he eventually sold that company.
Good for him.
Yeah.
What a great business to be in. That's wonderful. Yeah. And so your mom was on air some. Now back then, would it be like spinning the records, talking, or was it something else?
Yeah, she was more in the 90s, so it might have been CDs, but she was a morning drive time person in the Columbia market. So some people in Columbia will know her, Linda White. But also, that was cool for me because I remember as a kid, I would always check out books in the library about television production or movie making or radio. And so my mom went to work in an actual radio station. So I would tag along sometimes or go along or just listen to records or just fascinated by, microphones and the headphones and what did this thing do. And when I went to college at Furman, and at Furman, one of the first things I did, even before I declared a major, is I worked in the radio station on campus, and loved it. So communications has always been kind of a part of what I was about, for sure.
And so, how did you pick Furman?
Well, they picked me, and I was flattered because I wasn't the best student, maybe, but I had some other accomplishments in my life that I think maybe put me forward with Furman. I had attended the Governor's School for the Arts, which at the time was at Furman, summer after my junior year for theater. And while I was there, I was like, this would be a great place to go to school, So that's why I applied. But I also applied to a couple other schools and got in, but it was 100 miles from home, so far enough to be away from home, but not too far, maybe.
Yeah.
And by the time I got into things at Furman, I had become a drama major and was really pursuing the arts in a way.
Yeah. Okay. So you liked that in high school.
Yeah.
And you continued that in college at Furman. And then you worked in a radio station. What'd you do in the summers?
I delivered hospital beds and wheelchairs for
your
my dad's
dad?
company,
Yeah, okay.
like many of us who have entrepreneurial parents do.
Yeah.
But you know, also at Furman, you know, my extracurricular work with, you know, I was in an improv comedy group with friends of mine. So even that was kind of an entrepreneurial pursuit. Like, we like being funny, we like writing funny sketches or doing improv comedy, but I wonder if somebody would pay us for it. You know, I wonder if we could go to other schools and do that. So my last 2 years at Furman were really devoted to, in a big way, like, how do I sell my art to people? Or how do I sell this group of friends and us performing? And again, we pursued that and met with some success, for sure.
Cool. Did you keep doing the improv work?
Yeah, man. Here's the thing. Like, when I grew up in South Carolina at that time, with an interest in film and television, writing, acting, all those kinds of things, there was Hollywood and there was New York City, maybe Chicago, you know, but there wasn't an Atlanta, like what Atlanta is now, which is the #1 city in the world for production now. Atlanta, Georgia is the biggest place in the world.
Wow.
And so that didn't exist. So all those things felt far away, and I didn't know how to. I didn't have a mentor to say, well, here's how you would pursue that. So instead, what happened soon after I graduated was, you know, needing to make money and have a job. I got into advertising and marketing because that's where, at least my generation of creative kids, a lot of us found ourselves.
Marketing company.
Yeah. So, and again, somebody like me, I can imagine now a 22-year-old me walking into your ad agency, lots of energy, lots of ideas. Throw me in anywhere, coach. I'm here.
Yeah.
So I started taking advantage of those opportunities. But at the same time, there was always this kind of longing for something more like an artistic life, or you know, I'll do a play on the side, or I'll you know, maybe make a little video with friends. You know, like, I was always kind of pursuing it, but I was fully immersed in that creative world of advertising and marketing for a long time.
So, I must tell you, I went to a one-day seminar on improv comedy.
Okay.
With Alchemy people.
Oh yeah, they're great. They're great. Yeah.
And I loved it. And I remember one thing that's really helped me in sales, which is how to communicate with people to keep a conversation going, which is the yes and.
Yeah, yes and.
It's the one. If you just don't have to go to class, just remember when someone says something to you, don't say, "I don't think so," or "What happened with that in Buffalo?" You know, just kind of, it's like the conversation is coming, you just stop it.
Yeah.
Versus saying, yeah, and then what happened, or.
Yeah, if you're improvising a scene and somebody says, "Man, it's so hot," and the other person says, "No, what are you talking about? It's freezing."
Scene over.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the incongruity of that makes you chuckle, but if you said, "Yeah, it's burning up, and we got to get out of these snowsuits."
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so then you keep going with it, and that becomes funnier. So, and that is true. That is something totally that doing improv has come into my own sales life. It's the actual ability to not write the narrative. Like, don't go into the meeting or don't go into the moment where I've got the story and I'm trying to get this other person to just get on board with the story I'm telling.
Right.
It's like letting go of the story a little bit and figuring out where their narrative is going.
Yeah.
You know, and that has definitely helped. Man, that'll help you in just personal relationships as well.
Yeah. You just have to take a breath and think about your response and say something that lets them talk again.
Yeah.
Like, where would you like this conversation to go?
Right.
What do you think a good next step is? Because I, being a seasoned sales dog, I want to say, listen, best thing we can do here is you just sign this.
Exactly.
And if you don't like it, we'll send it back later.
Yeah, right.
Know?
Oh, yeah.
I just want to push it on you.
Yeah,
Because I'm lazy, right? And I just want to get it done, and that's not the right way to do it.
No. Yeah, I like to think, I'd say this to my wife, if you get into the right room, which it takes a lot to maybe get into the right room, it takes a lot being in the room to know you're in the right room. But when you're in the right room, good things happen.
Yeah.
So you got to take your foot off the gas, let the moment go, get into their story, and then suddenly, it's always been good things happen at that moment.
How many times have you seen, and hopefully you've never done it, I've done it a few times, but like you're calling on a prospect, maybe there's a couple of you and a couple of them, and you sit down and someone on your side says, well, before we get started, I thought we'd start by telling you guys a little bit about us.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been around 27 years, and he's been out of Furman 4 years where he was the best person ever in the drama department, by the way. And the people you can see on their faces, they're just going, their eyes are starting to close. And they don't care.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't care. If you just said, why don't we start by you guys telling us what's going on?
Yeah.
And why'd you call us in here? What can we help you with?
It makes sense. It makes so much, and sometimes it's just anxiety. You're in the room, you have this big opportunity. But I've found in film, I see this a lot with people that are pitching a film maybe to private equity or something, and they start the pitch by saying, let me tell you about our film.
Yeah.
And they got their deck and their slides, and 20 minutes later, everybody is checked out of that pitch.
Right. Out.
It's almost like not even about the film. The film is at the end of the meeting when they're everybody's vibing and having a good time and well, tell us about this film y'all making.
Right.
And then even that is like
still too
2
much.
minutes.
Yeah, still can't do
2 minutes.
Much. Yeah.
The elevator pitch and I'll send you the screenplay or that's not how successful.
Like what kind of things? Why don't you guys start by telling us what kind of things you like to invest in? Where have you seen your successful movies?
Right.
What levels are you guys typically shooting for?
Right.
Whatever. You might, at the end of all that, you might say, I don't think we brought you the right film. And they might say then, wait a second.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. Some of the prep of the meeting would be maybe that a little bit about the person, but still by starting with the question, let them define themselves. If I go into the meeting and I have all this understanding of somebody from their website or their LinkedIn page, but I'm translating that through my filters. I'm making that what I think that means.
Right.
Let them talk about it.
Yeah. It's a great lesson for the newbies out there to let them tell their story and you jump into their story with them. Don't tell your story. Back to the timeline, you got a Furman, you went to work for an ad agency, marketing company in Greenville?
No, I was in Texas for a while.
Texas, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Dallas area.
Okay.
And, but, would jump around and take advantage of, if I got a job offer somewhere. And then eventually I did my own thing, had my own branding agency. But what brought me to Greenville was a marketing job. I had a client that I did some branding marketing stuff, and they wanted me to come into their house and do work for them. So that's what brought me to Greenville in the early 2000s.
And what company was that?
Jeff D's in Public Relations.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you came in the early 2000s?
Well, I came right after I'd done a documentary about the South Carolina Clemson football rivalry.
Okay.
It's called Bragging Rights.
Yeah.
And I made it with a guy named Jeff Summerall, who was a Greenville-based filmmaker, a longtime friend. And we had raised money for that, and we made this documentary and released it all over the state, all hard media at that time, DVDs and VHS tapes. And just through that, met people, had opportunities, did different things, and an opportunity to move to Greenville came, and I've been here ever since.
Now, did you know Jeff from school?
Well, so when I was in college, that is when I met Jeff. We're different ages. He's older. He's like a big brother, maybe. But he was doing performance and stuff, and me and my friends, would go and see him do super cool stuff in town, and kind of raised our hand one time and said, hey, we want to do stuff with you. And he kind of adopted us for a little bit and encouraged us all.
I saw him do some stuff at the Coffee Underground.
Yeah.
We used to go in there sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
He was so funny. So you came back here, and you kind of been doing these documentaries and side project kind of things. And then you get a marketing job back in Greenville.
Yeah.
And again, for the people watching that don't know, I mean, marketing job, you're selling companies on doing their marketing for them, right? Rebranding their site or helping them get leads or whatever. And back in the day, it's so weird the way it used to happen, but you would call in different marketing companies and they would come and they would pitch you, right? Well, this is what we think you ought to do.
Yeah, right.
Which it seems kind of dumb because now nobody would do that. They would just say, no, if you want me to show you a new website, you got to pay me.
Yeah.
You know?
It's true. It's true. You'd almost have the whole thing built out at a pitch, right?
Yeah. We're going to stay up all night and show these guys. Maybe they'll pick us. Like,
I remember one time my agency pitching a children's museum. And we built this binder out of Legos. It was incredible. It was like a Lego binder. So for the pitch meeting, and we didn't get it. And they kept our Lego binder.
Yeah.
It's like, we should at least keep this beautiful binder made of Legos.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I don't like that business model. Anyway, you obviously know how to do that well, and you had your own firm doing that, but you have morphed full-time.
Yeah.
Is there anything in between there I'm missing? You morphed full-time into Studio 15?
Oh, yeah. So like maybe happens a lot with people in creative fields, or especially advertising and marketing. I had a moment of crisis. I just kind of burned out on selling other people's things. And I kind of felt like I wish I was selling my own things. And again, that dream of something, an artistic life was there. And I did a thing that was, maybe crazy, but I quit the ad job. It was at a different firm than we talked about. And became a teacher, a public school teacher, a drama and film teacher at a local high school, J.L. Mann High School.
Yeah.
And went and loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
I wrote original plays and had incredible experiences with students, and but I couldn't. What happens in that, John? And this is a problem as we think about education, I think. But again, 3 kids, 35, 36 years old at the time. I could not see a path towards really building wealth for me and my family. I couldn't make the money part of it work.
Yeah.
And so I would almost, on the sly, I would maybe gig a little, pick up a writing for a website here and there, or, I couldn't do client meetings. I was at school all day, but I'd pick up something here, and maybe in the summer I would direct a commercial, or, I'm still trying to keep some gigs going so I can make some money. But it was a real struggle, and a moment came where I know what the moment was. The moment was high-definition video became consumer level. Around 2009, 2010, I told my wife, Emily, I said, could we maybe try to be independent producers of movies, because they have now HD video. They have cameras, not unlike these cameras here.
Yeah.
Way more primitive than that, but that shoot movies, and you change the lenses on them, and it looks like movies. And if I don't take this shot, I think at that time I was 40.
Yeah.
Okay. If I don't at least try, I'm really going to feel sad someday that I didn't try. So I went to Target. I bought a camera. I started a Facebook account so I could start talking to the world.
Well.
And I left my teaching job, and me and my wife started gigging. So I would get creative gigs. If you wanted me to film we didn't have podcasts then, but if you wanted me to make your corporate video, I could do that.
Yeah.
But the hustle was all in service of, we want to produce our own movies and sell them to the world. We want to have that movie in existence. So 13 years ago, we made a short film, shot it down at Bergamo's downtown.
Yeah.
With my daughter and me as the actors. with a little handheld, Canon 5D camera, just little by little, short film, feature film, another short, another feature. Now we got a budget. Crowdfunding was a big part of what we did. Can we raise $10,000 to make a movie? Okay.
Yeah.
Can we raise $25,000 to make? It just grew until about 2017, 2018. We went for the big one, which for us was this movie Electric Jesus, which we knew would be at least $1 million to make. It's a coming of age movie set in the 80s about a Christian rock band, Christian heavy metal band. We knew it needed to have a couple of famous people in it. We knew it needed to have a rock and roll soundtrack. We knew it was going to be a huge endeavor, and we started pounding the pavement and trying to raise $1 million. And so that became, a next level of growth and development for what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how did you like the outcome? Did you like the movie?
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
People liking it?
Yeah. It's once you're finished with a thing, I think Rick Rubin says this in his creative book. It's no longer yours. It belongs to the audience. It belongs to the people that watch it or see it. And so no matter what your intentions were for it, it becomes the thing it is. And so it's been exciting. I mean, it's been distributed all over the world, and we hear from people all the time who it's their favorite movie.
Wow.
Or it's about it's set in 1986. It's about Christian rock band. It's got some of that, I don't know, if you grew up in evangelicalism, U.S. evangelical Christianity, you'll probably, and people that grew up that way watch it and are like, dude, that was my life.
Yeah.
People, and if you didn't, I mean, it's still for you. It's a coming of age movie.
I'll watch it.
It's a band movie.
Should have watched it last night, but I'll watch it tonight.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. And I would say, just in terms of lessons learned here, all the work you've done to get to the point where you can make a serious movie, $1 million movie with legitimate stars who were on The Office and stuff like that,
and selling, international distribution and all that kind of stuff.
So the next one is going to be a lot easier. You can probably, you'll be able to raise $10 million.
Sure.
And you'll be able to get maybe Kevin, maybe some even better people.
Yeah, right.
And the distribution will be a snap because you've already done it. And there you go.
Well, no. I mean, yes, there'll be new problems. There'll be new challenges.
Yes.
And the thing that I think you can take away from that experience is, remember when this challenge happened? When we were fighting with a labor union over, or remember when the first edit came back and I cried because it wasn't going to be what I thought, all those things that feel like, how will we ever overcome this?
Yeah.
We overcame.
Yeah.
So when you go back into a whole new set of challenges, you will remember that. Now, some mistakes you won't make the next time, but there'll be new mistakes you make.
Well, let's talk about movies for a second. I love a good movie. What would Pulp Fiction, what would that have cost to make?
I'm guessing at the time Pulp Fiction was probably $10 to $15 million.
Not that. Okay. It's not really out of range, really.
Well, I have some theories about what movies should cost right now in the independent space. That's different from maybe 1994, I think was when Pulp Fiction came out, or 95, 96, somewhere in there. But there are opportunities with the streaming world that are incredible. They're just exponential.
Just to skip the movie theater, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The movie theater is pretty much used as a loss leader for the streaming at this point.
So funny, it just went whoosh.
Yeah. Though I have seen, of the Oscar nominees and all that stuff, I don't know when this will come out, but when we're talking, there's Oscars things in the air. I've seen as many of them as I can in the theater, because I just like the experience of going to a cinema and seeing a movie.
Yeah. Have you ever looked at a website called Best Movies by Far? FARR? Best
Oh,
Movies.
no.
Check it out. I found out 2 summers ago, there's this guy named John Farr, lives in New York, and he's a movie critic, and he's like on the TV and all that stuff. He's my cousin. So he came to a party
cool.
at our house. You know, he was just in town. He lives up in New York, and he said, "Hey, I'm John Farr. You know, I'm your second cousin, Aunt Virginia or something." And so we're like, whatever. And he goes, it's almost like he said, "You don't understand. I'm John Farr." You know, John Farr. And he told me the site, and I looked it up, and sure enough, it's a great site.
Okay, that sounds.
It's kind of like the old Netflix thing when you could. That thing where you could search easily and find the movies that you like. If it's like Pulp Fiction, you'll like this one. And,
that's good.
And it's free, so that's good.
Yeah, I like an app called Just Watch.
Okay.
And the reason I like this app is I never know where to see things. Like, is it on Hulu? Is it on Disney? Is it on Netflix? So I just type in the movie name and it tells me where it is.
That's perfect.
And
so
if I got to rent
all it does.
that's what it. That's all it does. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure John Farr knows about that. He might have that as part of his offering as well.
Well, I need to talk to him again. My famous cousin. Okay, so you have I'd say you've broken through a big barrier with this movie. I mean, this is legitimizing movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
This isn't the around town kind of thing.
Yeah. It's definitely opportunities come with this. Like I can't even. Just interesting. You meet different people. Interesting things as far as raising money to make movies and a vision for your company changes because it's very expansive, you know. And one of the challenges of this film was it came out during COVID lockdowns. It came out in it was ready to go in 2020, but we moved to 2021 for the release. And so we ended up spending a lot of time in film festivals. I was in 40 film festivals. You know, the cool thing about that is you can say, 40 film festivals, 50 prizes or whatever the number, you win things. But what that did was we started getting a lot of buzz about the movie. People would see it, write about it. And we would have experiences where we could hear from our audience. Like, people are not quiet about movies. They don't like it, they tell you. If they do like it, they tell you. And then once they started having physical events again, going to a film festival and seeing Electric Jesus with a crowd around was like just a incredibly useful, both for the artist and the business person. You know, one thing that Emily and I, my wife, Emily Reach White, who produces with me, one thing we learned going to the movie is, and it's a comedy drama, a dramedy, we liked when people laughed. We liked when people clapped or thought something was great in the movie. And we were like, hey, the next one we make, let's make the whole thing like that. What if the whole thing is people laughing? And so our next movie is this total screwball comedy that should be there should be 10 laughs per minute. Like we want it to be just a crowd-pleasing comedy. Not that that's not crowd-pleasing, but that has dramatic aims in it. So it's
give them what they want.
Yeah. And even though we're still making a piece of art, and even though I'm not really, I'm making things that make us laugh. I guess I'm not worried about what everybody thinks is funny, because then it would turn into, a mashup of every funny film ever. But I know this film, I know the tone of the next film, and when we get on set and we start making it, we will put together a film, the next film, that is just a screwball comedy, like crazy, fun movie.
Yeah. A feel good.
Yeah.
Like Meatballs. It's one of my favorite Bill Murray movies.
The monologue in Meatballs. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sold that pretty well.
Yeah.
Golly, what an actor.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about one thing in particular with sales we talked about earlier, is when you're pitching a movie and you're trying to get it green lighted. You have the money, you have the distribution, whatever.
Yeah.
Talk about those stages of different people you have to sell to and how you sell them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. This is really, I think this might be helpful for people to, not just filmmakers, though. So when I'm selling a movie, when I'm making a movie, I've realized that there are really 5 sales moments that happen in that process. 5 moments where I am trying to persuade somebody, convince somebody, bring somebody along to my side, my way of thinking, to say yes. And each one is totally different. Not only the audience, but the whole tone and tenor and everything about the sale. The first one is I have to sell my business partner, who happens to be my spouse. I have to say, hey, this is an idea, or this is a screenplay,
Another
or this
one?
is a, and I'm like, I think we should do this.
Yeah.
And sometimes that takes a longer time to warm up to, or sometimes she's out of the box like, yes. But I know because I love and respect her, and she loves and respects me, and I think her taste is great. If she says, yes, I agree, this seems like an artistic and business risk worth taking.
Yeah.
And that's my first sale. And it builds confidence, and it also means I got my partner on my side. The second phase of that is the one that maybe people think about most when you think about film, is like, it's capital raising. Like, how are we going to pay for it? Just like any product, if you're have created the best rake anybody's ever seen in the lab, well, you got to make them, and you got to have some capital to do that, to scale it up and do it. And that means talking to private equity, sometimes banks, sometimes grants, state film incentives all over the country. You have to start talking about your film, the film you're making, as not just some product, or not just like a great movie or a feel-good, fun night out for the family. You have to say, this fits in the market here, and this is how it works. And sometimes that means what kind of stars will be in it, if there are going to be famous people in it. What's the genre? What style of movie? What's your track record? How do we know you can even finish this? So those private equity conversations, which often are with high net worth people, man, that's a language that a lot of artists don't know how to talk. I didn't know how to do that. We spent 3-4 years kicking around meetings with rich people trying to get yeses. And what we found in that is we found a way. This is kind of cool. Over time, what developed is we started going into the meetings playing different characters. So with like Electric Jesus, well, Chris is the artist that wrote it. He's going to direct it. He's got this vision that sounds fun and exciting, and he can drop names, and it sounds like a legit thing. Emily, well, she's the suit. She's the corporate person. We're not going to get sued. If we do, this is what we're going to do. Like, here's how the paperwork's buttoned up. If you're going to wire us money, here's how it happens. Here's all the paperwork is signed, reporting through the process. Behind the scenes, we both know both answers to sets of questions. But we even got to where we dressed differently for the movie. I went in, kind of looking like this. Like, here, I'm ready to go to set. And she walked in looking like a banker.
Yeah.
And so we played those different roles, and what we ended up finding out is that people, even high net worth people, they have different motivations for becoming involved in a film project.
Right.
But you just simply have to listen to know what they are. And so we had to tune our ear. We had a meeting with a person. I don't know if I should say their name, but they're a famous South Carolina money person, like maybe the richest person in the state, kind of thing. We got an audience with this person, and we went in guns blazing. I mean, we were ready for that presentation. We were given you will have 20 minutes with this person.
Yeah.
They gave us an hour, right? Okay. They were jamming with it. They loved the whole thing. We were going to shoot it kind of in a city that they are trying to support and build for the arts. And at the end, they passed. And the reason they passed is ultimately because their objectives were like, they didn't need to make any money. So here we are, these artists trying to justify, and we're like, here's how we're going to make all this money.
Yeah.
It's just going to be great. Yeah. And they were like, we're trying to just serve our community.
Yeah.
And We have enough money.
Don't even talk to me about the small money.
Yeah. Your goals, our goals weren't aligned.
Yeah.
And, of course, there are probably other reasons that went into that decision. But I remember coming out of that going, we should have shut up and just listened and really paid attention to what that person was telling us. Mm-hmm. Now, we're very happy with the way the movie went, and we're glad we filmed it in Columbus, Georgia, and that was an incredible experience. But, it was 2 years after that meeting that we were standing on set.
Right. Well, what a great lesson, though. I mean, and we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's just we don't want to drive the story.
Right.
We don't want to assume that the lady or the man with all the money wants to make more money. They might not even care. That's it. Like sometimes people would come to us when we had a big company. They'd say, "We've got this idea to partner with you, and we can make it profitable." And it was such a small amount that it just wasn't even worth having the appointment. We got to stay focused on the big money. So anyway,
or sometimes people just want to put their money someplace. We want to put, in real estate, say, we're going to put money in this thing, and we're just looking for a little return every year. A lot of filmmakers, the first thing out of your mouth is, if you give me, $100,000, let me tell you how you're going to get your $100,000 back with your preferred return in the next 18 months. Mm-hmm. And that is not necessarily what a high net worth person or a person that can do $100,000 needs to hear from you.
Yeah. Okay, so you sold your partner. Next sale is next sale is the money people. What's the next sale?
My collaborators.
Okay.
My creative collaborators.
They would come in and spend their time with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Because when we make a film, I have to have the most talented people I can afford with me in an intense creative collaboration. And the thing is really talented creative people that I can afford or I can't afford are busy. They have their own things to do.
Yeah.
Why do they want to come and work on Chris's movie? And maybe I'm doing my movie in April, and they can do it in August. They can't do it in April. Well, I got to decide. Well, am I gonna wait till August to do it so I can have this creative person, or I'm gonna do it in April? It is such a crazy balancing act, tightrope thing. Especially then you start casting actors. Mm-hmm. If you're dealing with a celebrity actor, somebody who's not a celebrity, just somebody that's on TV a lot. Well, you have to deal with their schedule too.
Yeah.
So getting the right people in the right positions and being able to manage that team through, you shoot a movie, you're working a month to six weeks, maybe less, but right around that amount of time. So you have to get that correct. And then when you get into post-production, editing a movie, the post-production, you got to find a partner who's going to work. I mean, it's hard to edit. It's time-consuming to edit a movie. Making music, a score, the VFX, the visual effects. There's so many elements, and you're working with disparate companies and individuals, and so that's my next sale. Mm-hmm. And the thing about that sale is that everybody's in it for different reasons. Mm-hmm. Some people are growing into the business, and they just glad to have a job that pays them $400 a day, maybe, for 21 days, right? Yes, I'm in. Some people are like, well, I've been working at this level, but I'm going to offer them a job at this level. So they're like, a career advancement. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not so much about the money, but it means that I'm no longer going to be a grip. I'm going to be the gaffer.
Yeah.
A grip moves things in movies. A gaffer lights things, right? Mm-hmm. So they're trying to move up. Some actors, Brian Baumgartner, Kevin from The Office in this movie, he liked this movie because it was a character unlike anything he'd ever played. He wasn't like Kevin in The Office in this. Mm-hmm. And that definitely appealed to him.
Yeah.
So you have to think of that sale also requires listening, also requires a vision, a field vision, where you're trying to hire all these people at the same time, and how do we get them all together and make this thing? Yeah. And it's a miracle. It's that you get all the team together.
Yeah.
And then you hold them together to the end.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't do it remotely either, right? They have to be there.
Some you can do remotely.
Okay.
But like the production, no. Everybody's there.
Yeah.
But in post-production, sometimes you can do that. But, I mean, it's an intensive physical... I always tell people, like, filmmaking is blue-collar work.
So what's I'm trying to... This is really interesting to me, because I love movies. Would you have been the producer and the executive producer on this film?
Okay, so I
don't know what the difference is.
Okay, in the motion picture world, executive producer is like my wife Emily. That's the money person, the legal person.
Okay.
They figure. So if you see credits, an executive producer, however many people, those people were involved in the financing of the movie and managing the money of the movie.
And the
a producer can be a lot of things. But basically, the producer is everything from hiring to finding locations to just.
Yeah.
Sometimes famous actors get producer credit. Producers share in the profits of the movie. Now, in television, totally different. The executive producer of a TV show is almost like a director. They have an artistic stake in the movie, so it's a little bit different. But when you go to see a movie, the EPs, the executive producers, are money people, and the producers are, like those are people that are rolling up their sleeves doing the work of making the movie.
Right. Well, it's fascinating to me. I've just been a movie watcher, and probably most of our audience is too.
Yeah.
But, knowing me, I was just thinking a producer's just got the bullhorn and the special chair. And
that's the director.
Director. Uh-huh. Are you doing that too?
Yeah. So I'm a writer-director who also produces. That's what I do.
You're the full package.
I'd say I got to have a voice in the production.
So the producer is pulling everything together. The director is the one telling people how to look at the camera and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot here. Well, let me ask you this very important question. I got a few more questions.
And we still got 2 more people I got to sell to.
I thought
we're at 3.
Okay, go to 4.
Okay.
Bring me Quattro.
My 4th audience I have to sell to is consumers, like the people that watch the movie.
Okay.
So that's also part of my job, is figuring out how I make this film we have made now appeal to the widest part, a niche maybe, a focused audience, but as many people as possible. How do I get it to them? How do I make it? How do I get their money? Even if it's streaming and supposedly to them it's free. What are my ad revenues that I'm getting from that? And once you have somebody, this is something a lot of filmmakers don't think about. Once you have a fan, now how can I engage with that fan? How can I give them maybe merchandise to buy? How can like a record or a T-shirt? How can I get them engaged in talking to other people about the film and spreading love for the film and really developing an audience? And that's a totally different thing, than any of those steps.
Is that a social media thing?
Social media is a huge part of it. It's also like learning the various algorithms that sell us media content. So there's, but it's also like making sure the film's on airplanes or making sure it's playing in South America, because South America loves Striper, so they're going to love Electric Jesus. And that means that we have a Spanish language version of the film. It's all those kinds of things that are involved in that phase.
Yeah.
And then the last one, the 5th one, is going back to my wife and saying, let's do this again. so no matter how difficult and how many problems there were, we have to have enough success to where we sit down and go to a good dinner in downtown Greenville and say, have a glass and say, what's the next one going to be?
Crank it up. Crank it back up. Who's your favorite director?
Oh, man. There's so many. There's so many people's work that I respect and love, and I right now I'm loving the big American masters who are in their golden age, like the Spielbergs and the Scorsese, and I think those guys are just inspiring to me. Francis Ford Coppola is about to release a movie. That sounds amazing. They filmed in Atlanta recently. I mean, I do tend to gravitate towards directors. Alexander Payne, who made The Holdovers, who I think The Holdovers is the best movie of the year. Paul Giamatti stars in that. I mean, just so many. And then I could go back and say, well, I love Alfred Hitchcock or Charles Chaplin, or, so I do think there's some film literacy that's required to maybe direct a movie. You know, I just directed a short film / music video that will be coming out soon, that we filmed in Greenville, that stars Fred Armisen of Saturday Night Live in Portlandia. And that, I don't want to say too much about it, but because it's going to be a surprise when it comes out and everything. But in that, it was kind of an homage to a French director, Jacques Tati, who, you don't need to know Jacques Tati, you know, but he inspired Jerry Lewis and a lot of, you know, American, you know, he had like a very specific style of comedy. And so even in that, I'm kind of channeling a little Jacques Tati. So love a lot of directors.
Yeah. I like Tarantino.
Oh, yeah, of course. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is like, that's my favorite, I think, of his. But, I mean, I watched that in a movie theater when we were just about to shoot Electric Jesus with my editor. We sat in a theater in Columbus, Georgia, and watched that thing, and we're just
So amazing. All right, so we're about out of time, so we'll ask you a few cleanup questions here. We've got your favorite directors. How about your favorite book?
I like that Rick Rubin book.
Okay,
it's
I've got that book.
I think it's good, especially sales, whatever you're in. It's written in short little sections, so you can just kind of read it and kind of meditate on it. But I do think it opens your mind a little bit. I'm going to give you this book recommendation. I read it this year. It's a novel. It's by Tom Hanks, his first novel, and it's called "The Making of Another Major Motion Picture Masterpiece." And I don't know if you're an audiobook guy. It's a great listen. But that, if you love movies, highly recommend that. It takes the production of a movie, a fictional movie, all the way from its earliest inspiration in a child making a comic to releasing the movie into the world. And I think you in particular would get a kick out of that.
Good. All right, and then favorite band?
U2.
U2.
I just took my oldest daughter to the Sphere in Las Vegas and stood there on the floor, and I mean, it was like walking into the future, John.
Wow.
It was insane. It was. Well, we could do a whole podcast.
I gotta go check that out.
Yeah.
And favorite word?
Forgiven, as used in the sentence, "You are forgiven." Okay. I think so much of our time is spent in our lives going around trying to somehow prove ourselves or be enough, or to prove that we're overcome mistakes by being gooder and better. And I just know that when I receive forgiveness, I am relieved. And when I give forgiveness, I am also relieved. And so I think the idea of that, of releasing, I don't know, that makes me free to be a creative person. It makes me free to be a business person. It makes me free to walk into a meeting and knowing if I screw this up, or if Emily screws it up,
okay,
and they pass, or we didn't, we should have known this, then we can walk out of the meeting and get in the car and just be like, okay, we learned something. And we're not grudge holders, and we're not pissed off and angry. You're forgiven.
How long have you felt this way?
How long have I felt this?
Where you've been comfortable with forgiving and all that?
Oh, that's definitely a grown-up thing. Okay. That's probably been a last 5 or 10 years.
Okay.
Because it's not. It doesn't come easy when you're young.
No. I think it's easy to let that emotion get the best of you instead of thinking logically that, you know, if I hold a grudge with somebody else the rest of my life, it's just hurting me. It's not doing anything to them, you know.
And I'm competitive. Like my wife and I are competitive. Like if we're in a film festival, we want to win. And when somebody else wins, we're like, oh man, we should have won. You know, like so. And that can lead, if you hang on to that can lead to grudges or bitterness or, well, you know, we're never going to enter another film festival again. Or
it's stupid.
Yeah, right. And that just becomes childish. And in a more mature position is just like, let it go. And we can't work, we can't create with like this heavy burden hanging over us, or just an annoying, frustrating. So anyway, I like forgiveness.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your story so far with us. You got a lot
John,
more
I know
to your
we're out of
story.
time, but you promised I could ask you a question. I have one question
Okay.
for you. What's
Here-
the best movie about sales? And there is a correct answer for this.
There's several. There's movies that I required my salespeople to watch.
Okay, what are they?
Glenn Ross.
Oh, okay. I didn't think of that one. Yeah.
Tommy Boy.
That's
is
the
another-
one.
yeah,
That's
Tommy Boy.
Tommy Boy.
Another one that's a little less watched about sales is called Used Cars.
Oh, yeah.
Which
yeah.
is a great funny movie
Okay.
about selling cars, obviously. Those are my top three.
Okay. Well, the one that came out this year, Air,
haven't
which is
seen that.
about the development of the Air Jordan, is a great.
I did see that. Yeah. I did see that.
But it's a sales movie.
Well, yeah, the salesperson in that film was Jordan's mother. I mean,
That's
she
right.
was unbelievable.
Yeah,
She was
yeah.
like,
They
no.
weren't going to make Jordan wasn't going to do anything unless his mom said, "We're doing this shoe."
Yeah.
But
and,
anyway.
and then the contract they get 5% of the profits, or 5% of the gross, I think it was. So he's getting what, $1 billion a year or something?
Yeah.
And Nike's happy to pay him. They're buying it because of him.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
listen, that's a good question. And again, thank you so much for spending time with us. I want to have you come back when the next movie comes out. Maybe do a little screening.
Dude, I'll come back anytime.
Okay.
And I'd love to talk about even Studio 15 and what we're doing in the upstate and what our vision is for developing film. And Emily and I are not headed to Hollywood. We want to be here.
So Studio 15 is, I guess we didn't get to it, but that's the name of what you've established here.
Yeah.
To develop your own movies and to help other people develop movies and get distribution, right?
Exactly. And also we have this cool part of it we want to develop a retreat center in the upstate that is a corporate retreat center. We don't have any of that in the upstate, but also that's rural but not rustic. So a nice place. But we also want to use that as a talent incubator. I want to have artist retreats. I want to have musician retreats. I want to, I want to do things to give back to the arts in this area that has definitely grown and given me opportunities.
Good. Well, if they want to find you, Google Studio 15.
Yeah, studio15.us.
Okay.
That's how you find us.
All right. Thanks again. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.